Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another stale movie review. Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another stale movie review. Today we're going to be talking about Man vs. Man vs. is directed by Adam Massey and is about a survivalist TV show host, Doug, who goes out into the Canadian wilderness to film a new episode of his show. And while out there filming in isolation, he becomes hunted by an unknown force/creature. Doug is the host of one of those survival type shows, kind of like, oh, I think there's one called Man vs. Wild. I've never watched it, but I think it's kind of like that style, or like Bear Grylls. So he gets dropped off by his production crew and he's out there filming by himself, and he's supposed to survive for 5 days. That's the premise of his show within the movie. So he's out there all by himself, and we do have some found footage bits in there. It's mixed in with a, more classic third person camera, which you guys know how I feel about found footage. I'm always a little bit iffy on it, but we'll get to that in a second. So let's go ahead and start off with what I liked about Man vs. The premise was super simple and I loved it. It worked really well. They didn't try to be too complicated for most of the movie, again, which I'll get to that. But for the most part, it was super simple and it worked really well. It was just a man out in the wilderness by himself who he is competent in how to survive, but he can't, he finds that he can't handle this thing that is stalking him or hunting him because it's not anything that he's experienced before. It's something otherworldly, or for a while he thinks it's a person messing with him. It does have a lot of humor thrown in. I feel like there's kind of some inherent awkward humor just associated with the fact that it's a guy out in the woods by himself and he's having to film himself doing things. And it's really funny because obviously he understands that parts will be edited out. So there's one funny part where he's trying to hang up a dead rabbit to save for later, but he's hanging it in a tree so that a bear or a wolf won't get to it, and he's trying to throw he has it attached to a rope and he's trying to throw it over the tree, and it takes him a million tries to get it, and then when he finally gets it, he turns to the camera and he's like, first try. He understands it'll be edited, so there's a lot of humor thrown in there, even during the slower parts where there's something scary not happening and still entertaining. So just a warning, which I like to give in every stale movie review. I tend to be a little more free with giving away spoilers because it is a stale movie review and it's not a new release, even though this only came out in 2015. So just a warning, just a warning. So what I liked the most about this movie was that the large majority of the plot ended up being a huge misdirection, which I really loved. So, and just another fair warning before anyone yells at me, I am gonna spoil the ending, so you've been warned. So basically, we're going through this whole movie and he's been in isolation, and we just think that there's some creature stalking him, maybe like a Bigfoot, and then we kind of start to think, well, maybe it's a crazy fan or a crazy person, maybe, kind of Deliverance style. He's thinking some backwoods hillbilly who's a little bit is stalking him and trying to scare him. So basically what we find out is while Doug has been in isolation and away from all of civilization, there's been an alien invasion, which I know what you're thinking sounds kind of hokey, but I think it works really well because the whole movie isn't about that. So so he's able to call his production team the first night that he is alone, and then in the middle of the night he feels this intense rumbling, thinks maybe it's an earthquake, and then the next day he finds that something has crashed but he can't figure out what, and it's affected the water and things like that. And then suddenly he can't get a hold of his team. So when we finally see that it's like some alien life force that has been stalking him, and he manages to escape, he finds a trailer and he sees the news that there's been an alien invasion and that all the major heavily populated cities of the world have been hit. So that's why he hasn't, that's why he doesn't know anything, and because he's been in the wilderness this whole time, far from civilization. And it sounds hokey as I'm saying it, but it works really well. Like, I found myself quite enjoying it, and pretty soon after he figures that out, the movie ends. So they don't go too much into the aliens, and it doesn't get too ridiculous with the sci-fi, which personally I'm not a fan of. So I really enjoyed it. I think it worked really well. And again, I liked that the whole plot was just like this huge misdirection. You think it's one type of movie and it ends up being a completely different type of movie. Let's get into what I didn't like about it. The only real things I didn't like about it were the CGI. So the alien life form was obviously all CGI, and it's a bit dodgy. It does not look great. And just looking at it, like, this movie's only 2 years old, and it already doesn't look great. It does not look good. So that I don't know what the budget was for this movie, and it could be just simply the budget for the movie. They show a lot of it though once we figure out what has been stalking him. So I feel like maybe if he wasn't, you know, if they didn't show so much of it, it would have been okay. Other than that, I did not like the bits of found footage in there. Like I said, it was mixed with a third-person camera, and you know, it gets to a point where he's so panicked that he just ditches the cameras. And I feel like when you set us up watching the found footage, I feel like you have to keep the cameras, or you have to make it clear that the cameras have been found. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point? And I know they did it for like stylistic purposes because we're watching him film his show, so they're just kind of showing you the view from the camera. But he ditches all of the cameras at some point. One of them gets lost in the lake or the river that he's nearby, and I just hate that they set that up and then all the cameras get abandoned or lost. I just was not a fan of that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why should you watch? I think it's a decent flick. Like I said, I liked the twist at the end. If you covered your ears and you don't know what twist I'm talking about, then that's good. Definitely go watch it. And it's on Netflix, so if you have it available to you, if you're in the US, you can watch it on Netflix right now. I don't know about other countries though, I'm sorry. So you can go watch it right now. You don't have to pay directly for the movie. You just watch it because you have a membership to Netflix. Or it's even better if you use somebody else's membership to Netflix, and you really don't have to pay for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 3 bunny rabbits out of 5. It was decent. I don't think I'm gonna watch it again, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad I did at least this one time. So on IMDb right now, it has a 5.5 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 22% audience score, no critic score. I just kind of put those in there for perspective. I don't put any, I don't put a whole lot of, like this isn't like the end all be all of reviews, Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, but I just put it in there for perspective. So I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, subscribe and become a Creepy Peep today. I post new videos Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay strange.